Hey guys, and in today's video we're checking out the Numark Orbit, a wireless handheld DJ controller designed to work with all your favourite DJ software. Trigger loops, samples, effects, control the tracks wirelessly from the palm of your hand. Let's take a look. So what do you get in the box? You get the Numark Orbit controller itself, a micro USB cable for charging with the controller, the USB dongle for receiving the wireless signal, a Velcro strap for attaching the controller, and you also get a thin black bag for holding the controller. Lastly, but not actually included in the box, you get downloads for the Numark Orbit DJ software, the Numark Orbit editor software, and also some mapping files for Tractor. The design is made from a rubberized plastic and feels solid in your hands. The grip while you're holding the controller is okay, but personally I prefer a much more chunky grip, like the back of an Xbox controller, more molded to the shape of my hands. But then this controller is designed to be used in multiple orientations, so that wouldn't really work. We have a pair of hooks here which allow you to attach a lanyard to hang the controller around your neck. On the front of the controller we have 16 backlit pads, which have a nice feel to them. On the top we have our two bump buttons which enable the control via the accelerometer. I'll talk a bit more about that in just a minute. In the middle is a large jog wheel with an illuminated ring around it, and we have 4 buttons along the top to select the mode of the jog wheel. Then below we have our pad bank buttons, which we can use to bring up different pages of control for our 16 backlit pads. On the side you'll find a power switch, a micro USB port for charging, and an LED indicator. On the back we also have a mount here which you can use to attach a Velcro strap. So basically this is a wireless MIDI controller to use with your DJ software. It works with any kind of DJ software that supports MIDI control, so this includes all your favourite DJ software like Virtual DJ, Serato DJ and Tractor. But this can work with any MIDI software, stuff like Resolume Arena video software. One thing I really like is the USB wireless dongle that you use to connect the controller over 2.4 GHz. You don't need to rely on setting up a complicated wireless network with a router or using Bluetooth through your laptop. This is reliable, fast and automatically connects. Testing out the range, I found it really needs line of sight between the transmitter and receiver to get a reliable connection. Now Numark do specify the range as up to 100 feet, but I think it's probably a bit less than that. So that fast wireless gives you a really nice low latency. If you decide that you don't trust the wireless connection, you can always use a wired connection over that USB cable. So I currently have this controller set up with Tractor. You can download some default mappings for Tractor from the Numark website, and I'm currently using the 2-deck mapping. The thing you need to remember is this controller is at its best when it's completely customized to you and how you DJ. If you download the Numark Orbit editor software, you can completely customize every element of the controller, from the mapping to the color of each pad. Check out this tutorial here from Numark, which will go in great depth about how to use the editor software. So I'm not going to go through my mapping I have here in great detail because this controller is really designed to be customized to how you DJ. So really everyone's mapping is going to vary and how they use the controller is going to be different. So quickly going over how I have this set up, pad banks 1 and 2 are the transport controls for deck A and deck B, and then pad banks 3 and 4 are the effects controls for deck A and deck B. First thing I'm going to say is don't expect to be able to master this controller in a matter of minutes. Because none of the buttons or pads are labelled, it means you have to memorise what every single button does. The colour-coded pads do help, but remembering all the different banks of pad buttons and controls can take a while to get to grips with. So let's start off by playing a track. Got a play pause button up here, also got a looping control here, so I can enable a loop, change its size, and exit the loop. We've also got our flux mode here in Tractor which we can enable. This is basically a slip mode, so when we enable a loop, the song will keep playing in the background, and when we release the loop, the track will keep playing like we never started the loop in the first place. Let me show what I mean. This is really useful for creating roll effects. So over here on the right side now we have all our hot cues, so I can just set hot cues. And to delete a hot cue, use the shift button and just press them down. We can also of course set loops onto hot cues, so I can set a loop going and then just put it onto a hot cue. And you'll see it goes green instead of blue. Green means a loop, blue means a hot cue. So I go to my first cue and then go straight into that loop. We've of course got our jog wheel in the centre here, which we can use for things like adding a filter or controlling the crossfader. One of the key features of this controller is the built-in accelerometer, which you can use to control effects and parameters. These are controlled by the two bump buttons we have up at the top here. So in this particular mode, I can enable the accelerometer and then use it to add a filter onto the track. So now over in the effects section, let's start off with our center jog wheel. We can do things like enable a effect called drama build, and various other effects as well. And then on our backlit pads, we've got loads of effects we can choose from. We can also use the built-in accelerometer to control parameters of effects. So if I enable the gator here, I can then use my right trigger to affect the parameters of the gator. And this works for all the other effects as well. So that's really just a very quick overlook at the Numark Orbit and how it works. This controller is a very interesting piece of hardware, and I really love using it and playing around with it, and it's a very expressive way of controlling the music. You can actually tilt the controller, move the controller in 3D space to affect your music. And instead of looking down at a laptop screen or a big MIDI controller, you can have this up in the air and your audience can see you interacting with the music and controlling the mix. In terms of latency, there is none. This controller is very, very fast. Also, another little tip with using this controller, if you double press the bump buttons, you can permanently enable the accelerometer control so you don't have to hold down the button. And the other important thing to remember is even though you're in this accelerometer mode and you can't see any of the other lights from the normal pad control, you can still control the track like normal. If at any time you want to find out your remaining battery life on the controller, hold down your K1 button and look at your pad bank down below and you'll see that it lights up 1 through 4 to represent the battery life, so we can see we have about half battery remaining. If you don't want to bother with using complicated software like Tractor or Serato, what you can just do is use the Numark Orbit DJ software that comes free with this controller. It's a very simple DJ application you could download for Windows and Mac, and it basically just allows you to get started and get DJing with the Numark Orbit. It's got that nice visual representation on the screen, so you can just load up your tracks and get started. So as I said, this is a great controller for manipulating the music for a live performance. It does take a while to get to grips with the mapping and learning all the coloured pads and what they actually do, but once you get to grips with it, it's a fantastic tool. So I think it's a great tool for allowing you to do something different. It's something we've never seen before. One or two negative points about the controller: I have had some issues with the backlight pads remembering their colour. If the controller disconnects and then reconnects, the controller will forget all the colours of the backlights and doesn't immediately load back up to how it was, which can cause some issues. Also, you can actually go into the controller in much more detail and edit loads of settings and parameters, but it's really complicated to do and involves holding down like multiple buttons as you power the controller on, and it's just a bit difficult to do, and I'd much prefer if you could use the Numark Orbit editor, which you use to change the mapping to adjust the settings of the controller. That would be a much more easy way of doing things. I think to get the best out of it, you really need to completely customize the mapping to suit you and how you DJ. Out the box, the default mapping allows full control of the DJ software, which is nice to have a play with, but I don't think it really suits the layout of the controller. Really, I think that should be done by a larger format controller, something like the NS7. What the Numark Orbit is brilliant for, though, is triggering hot cues, samples, remix decks, controlling effects and filters in the palm of your hand. Instead of looking down at your laptop and at your MIDI controller, you can be looking up at the audience and manipulating the controller in your hands, so you're no longer attached to your laptop, you're kind of performing to your audience. If you want to find out any more information about the Numark Orbit, I'll put some links down in the description below and you can go and have a look at what this thing can really do. But that's it for this video. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below, and as always, thanks for watching.